What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be doing an arrival into Dublin Airport at Terminal 1. This here is a Ryanair arrival process coming in from Manchester, England. If you're coming in on Ryanair, it is common to disembark on the tarmac and walk or take a bus to the terminal. But if you're arriving on one of the larger aircraft, those are going to get the air bridge, okay? So the low-cost carriers here at Dublin, the likelihood that you're going to end up on the tarmac having to walk like this is very high. All arriving international passengers must go through immigration. Ireland is part of the EU, but not part of the Schengen visa zone. But if you're coming from the EU, UK, or EEA, citizens often have faster lanes, including the EGates, if you have a biometric passport. Non-EU arrivals, those will have to go through more checks. So if you're coming in from the US, you're not going to be able to use the EGates as of right now. If you are using the EGates, you can expect to arrive and be done clearing baggage and everything in about 30 minutes. But during peak times like summer or holidays, it can extend all the way out to 60 minutes. If you're not using EGates, you can still get that 30-minute time frame window, but it's just faster, obviously, using the E-gate than having to process through passport control and talk to an immigration officer. Last time I was here, they asked me a bunch of questions like how long I'll be here, what I'm going to be doing while I'm here, where I'm going to be staying. So make sure you have your itinerary and all that information available, because if you don't, they may give you a short stay visa. I personally made the mistake of not having those details available. The guy asked me why I'm coming here. I told him because I was part Irish. I always wanted to visit Ireland. And he said, what part of Ireland is your family from and all this stuff? And he really got technical. I was kind of shocked, but that's the kind of depth they go into. And when I told him that I didn't actually know what part of Ireland I was from, he only gave me 3 days in the country. And I was like, wow, that's really cutting it short, buddy. But that's my fault, I guess. And as you can see, it's a bit of a long walk. Obviously, if you're going to get on one of those shuttle buses because you parked a little bit further away from the building, then you will be inside a bus. But still, you're going to be walking outside in the elements. And out here in Ireland, you're going to get rain quite often, or maybe even like a sleet kind of rain. So make sure you're dressed warm when you're getting off the plane. Don't be coming from Barcelona or some beach destination in Spain, arriving into Ireland expecting sunshine and, nice cozy temperatures in the middle of November, December, January, February, March. Well, of course, unless you don't mind freezing or being cold. So I would say probably prepare with a rain jacket. Do some research on the temperatures before you arrive. Check your phone app. And now once you're actually in the airport, the walk's not over. As you guys have been watching these airport arrival videos that I've been doing at various different airports from Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Oman, some of these can be some super, super long walks. So you might want to take necessary steps to prepare for that. If you're someone who can't walk a lot, or you're bringing a heavy backpack, you might ask for some help prior to arrival. You can set that up by contacting the airline and seeing who you can talk to in case you're someone with a disabled person or you are disabled yourself. Make sure you prepare that before arrival. Some of these can be really short. Actually, if you guys are planning to go to Edinburgh Airport, that one was a real short one. I mean, it seemed like right when I got off the plane, I was already at passport control. But that's kind of a hit or miss situation. I mean, in some cases, you could end up arriving at a gate that is nearby passport control. It's just if you're arriving on Ryanair, it seems like they give the worst treatment all the way across the board. Everything from, just the budget lifestyle, right? It's like they're giving you the bare minimum for baggage and all that. And then, they're parking your aircraft outside, making you walk through the elements, and then making you walk all the way across the airport just to get to border patrol control. So, these are things you got to take into consideration. But again, if you're arriving on a big boy, by the time you get in, you're probably already arriving semi-close to passport control. At least that's the hope, right? There are 2 terminals here at the Dublin Airport. Terminal 2 is where most of the long hauls and Aer Lingus flights actually come in. So if you're coming in on the flagship carrier Aer Lingus, you're going to likely get an air bridge. So remote arrivals, those are less common, but they do happen on those low-cost carriers. Now, as we get closer to passport control or border control, whatever you want to call it, I want to give you guys some more information if you're a non-EU arrival. So be ready to show your accommodation details. Also, return onward ticket. A lot of people don't take this into consideration because sometimes they don't know how long they want to stay in Ireland because they're just going across the EU or the European zone. So maybe they're like, I don't know, maybe I'll stay 3 days or 5 days, maybe 7 days. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the weather is. Well, here in Ireland, like I said, they're very strict with this stuff. I mean, they're more strict than most countries. They don't really take this stuff lightly. So make sure you have a return ticket to your country of origin or where you departed from, maybe a round tripper, or make sure you have an onward ticket. So if you're going from, say, England to Dublin and then you're going to Barcelona, you should already have that ticket booked going to Barcelona with proof and have that kind of saved and ready on your phone so that when you get to passport control, you're not fumbling around trying to find that. Same with your documentation for the accommodation. You should have that booked and proof. Some people, they just do a couple days already booked and they have that on record, but they do technically say you need to have everything already prearranged. Ireland's a lot more expensive than I thought. I mean, it's not a cheap destination, especially in Dublin. It's very expensive. So you guys got to be ready for all that. Now, if you're coming from certain countries, they may ask you to provide proof of funds. And you might want to have that printed out, you know, a bank statement showing that you have enough money in the bank for them. So as you get to the point where you're almost at passport control, you know you're about to pick up your luggage, you're probably starting to wonder about transport into Dublin. So the airport itself is about 10 kilometers away. The very first time I came to Dublin, I took the bus into town. But you can also take other forms of transportation, such as a metered taxi. If you do take the metered taxi, they are going to expect euros. That's the currency here. And it's typically between 25 euros to 35 euros to the city, depending on traffic. But again, it is going all the way 10 kilometers into the city. It is quite a far drive, actually. Now, another thing to take into consideration about taking that bus, it's called Air Coach or Dublin Express. It does run 24/7 between the airport and the city center. Tickets can be bought online ahead of time, or you can just get them at a kiosk once you get there. They also have the public bus, which is called the Dublin bus routes. Those are cheaper but slower, so it just depends on how much pain threshold you are willing to put up with to save money. And then you can also rent a car. They have rental desks located in both terminals. Pre-booking ahead of time definitely saves time and money. I just want to talk about departure for U.S. citizens real quick. Dublin Airport does offer U.S. pre-clearance, so you'll clear U.S. immigration before boarding. I've dealt with this in places like Aruba. Sometimes it's not as convenient as you would like, but it is convenient once you arrive into the U.S. because you've already cleared customs. I also did this in Vancouver. That one was a bit better than what I've seen in Aruba. I think during holiday season, it's an absolute mess, especially if they want to search your bag. Sometimes you need to show up about 3 hours to 4 hours before flight because it can be an absolute mess in some of these pre-clearance areas. Another thing is, have euros or a contactless card ready for transport since cashless payments are widely accepted. But having euros that you can get before arrival, whether you're coming from the U.S., maybe go in there and get $100 worth of euros just to have pocket money on you right away so you're not having to deal with too much frustration. But having a Visa card or a MasterCard. Amex is not widely accepted most places across Europe or even outside of the U.S. So there's something to consider. After about a 15-minute walk, we've arrived at passport control. We're going to have to shut off the camera and pick up at baggage claim. On this day, there wasn't much of a wait for the EGates or for the actual non-EU passengers. This just varies depending on how many planes are arriving all at once. In some cases, you get delayed flights and then scheduled flights all arriving at the same time, and that's when you get the big flow of traffic coming through. So hopefully flights are on time and there's no real bottlenecking of lines and long queues. But yeah, I mean, I always try to get to the gate ahead of all the passengers on the plane anyway, because I always think, well, on this plane there's 50 to 100 to 200 passengers, and if I can be at the very front of that line, that's a lot of people that I've already gotten in front of, right? The wait for baggage took around 20 to 25 minutes, so it was pretty quick. It was all going smooth. Everything was really a breeze on this day, aside from the walk, which is actually quite long. I mean, that's the frustrating part that I'm discovering about most of these airports, is the long walks. This is something that seems to be a part of all the new airports. Obviously, those treadmills help a lot. One thing that I have is a heavy backpack, so I wish it wasn't as long as it is, because my backpack, I pack a lot of stuff in my backpack, like a computer and some other camera gear, etc. But it is what it is. We have to accept it. If you can find one of those carts so you can actually push your bag instead of carrying it, that can help a little bit as well. But I didn't see much of that here at the Dublin Airport. Now here we are at the exit where they have the transport and pickup. This is where you make the decision or the pre-arrangement pickup for your rental car, or your taxi driver may be waiting with a sign for you, or you will walk to the kiosk to get the coach bus. So that's what we're going to do right now, is we're going to take the cheapest option of all, take the coach bus into the city center. Like I said, that's about a 10-kilometer drive. Seems like it takes around 20 to 30 minutes, again, just depending on traffic and a bunch of other variables, how long it takes to load up the bus, put everyone's bags on, get everyone seated in, and then, you're on your way. Some of those things are just out of your control. It's just part of the process of taking the coach bus. If you're someone who wants the faster route, though, definitely get a rental car or a taxi ready to roll. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one from Dublin. If you did, you can also watch our video from Edinburgh. That arrival process was pretty good. We'll see you on the next one. You can click right here and watch Edinburgh next.